All right. Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of Captive to Independent. We have Scott Neill here with us with Neill Insurance Brokers. Super excited to hear your journey. A little background, real quick, on Scott. So he's in Texas. He actually started with working towards being a DM for farmers and then kind of like got conned into being an agent. I'll let him tell you that story. But became a crazy, super successful agent. So 8 times with toppers, 3 Triple Crowns, 2 blue vases, which is kind of crazy. Usually people only get that once, and then 4 championships, and a lot of other awards and trips throughout your career with farmers over 10 years. And then decided to go independent. So I know that there's a lot of agents who, had been with the companies, captive companies for a long period of time and feel almost like kind of stuck and not able to start over. You've been doing the independent side for about 20 months. You had a lot of success with it. Really excited to hear your journey and kind of why you decided to make that shift. So thank you for taking the time to do this. And I'll let you kind of get started with telling us how you got into insurance.
Yeah, Mariah, thanks for having me on, man. So before we dive into this, I'm the most casual agent. I know you've interviewed some people that like know their numbers, their dates, they know exactly who's who when they signed on, and every corporate, at Farmers. I don't know what I did last week, because I've got two under two, well, 2.5 year old and a 10-month-old, and I'm running a business now as a true business owner. And you mentioned the 2-time Blue Vase Award. I think Farmers was desperate for more life insurance, so they threw another trophy at us, and that's my love language. Duh. Of
Trophies.
course. I think that's why I suckered into Farmers for so long, because I got like, I still keep, I had my an old farmer's buddy in my district stop by the other day. He goes, Scott, you still keep your trophies? I was like, that's my love language, son.
Oh,
I'm
dude,
keeping
mine are
this
all
going.
like right back here.
Yeah.
I have trophies all over the place. I'm not even
I
an
was
agent
like,
anymore.
I earned those, man. I'm keeping those. I don't care if I've been away from Farmers for 10 years. Like, I'm still gonna have those because it's hardware, baby. And that's
Hmm.
what, and I still got all my, like, we did the Farmers Open. We won a trip. They did a promotion, which was awesome. And like, I still got my thing from that. But
Hmm.
anyway, thanks for having me on. I'm not going to be an hour and a half. Like, when I'm here, I'm make it short and sweet, tell you my life story, tell you what's worked for me, what, you know, parts of going independent that I got my ass handed to me on. And, it's been a heck of a journey, especially in this hard market, right?
Oh, man.
So, long story short, I grew up in Arlington, Texas, right, where all the stadiums are now. It was smaller back then, but basically grew up. I was a wrestler most of my life. Went to Oklahoma State, graduated in 2010 with my finance marketing degree. And then basically, I didn't know what I wanted to do, like most people. My parents were like both, like my dad was an engineer, my mom was a teacher, so they weren't really like entrepreneurs. They're just like, go find a salary job and drive an American car, like, like, okay. So I got recruited like the last week of college. I got recruited by New York Life out of Oklahoma City office, and they wanted me to work there. And I was like, it's kind of far from home because I know I'm gonna be broke because it's commission only. So I want to live with my parents for the first like year. And so we actually got an agreement where I could go to the Fort Worth office. So from like 2010 to 2011, I don't have months. I don't remember months, like summer. Okay, whatever. But anyway, for about a year, I was at the New York Life office in Fort Worth, and they gave us a notice that they're, because of the hard market, back in 2010, 2011, they were still struggling from '08, right? They shut down because the lease was up at the Fort Worth office, and this was in downtown Fort Worth. Like, it was a beautiful office, man. Like, I looked bougie as hell, and I was making no money. And but I loved what I did. I loved helping people, right? And so I ended up deciding, like, I don't want to move to Dallas. I don't want to move to the Dallas office. My parents lived in Fort Worth, so I was like, I want to stay local. But um, fast forward like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, I was kind of looking at what I wanted to do. Still selling life insurance for New York Life, but then I got a call from my district manager, who I had no idea who he was, but he was a farmer's district manager, called me, found me on LinkedIn or whatever they used back in the day, and said, hey, there's a program here based on your life insurance experience and things like that. Which was only a year in. I want to offer you this opportunity to come do like a protege program, work for my district office, see if you like it, and then maybe we can create a program for you to start your own district or whatever. And I was like, sweet, no
Wow.
idea. I was like 23, thought it was too good to be true, but nope. I ended up going to district 12. Yeah, we stayed the same district. We bought other districts over the years, but
Wow.
anyway, so Neil Justice was my DM. Good guy. I worked for him for about a year. So from 2011 to 2012, I was in that program, worked at the district office in Irving, Las Colinas, actually. So nicer area. But did that, and then they shut down the program, and Neil was like, well, shit, I need an agent to career to meet my quota. I only got 3 this year, I need 4 or whatever the number was. He's like, can you do it, and can you do it in 30 days? I
Oh
was
my
like, I
gosh.
was like, what does that even mean? Like, because I was recruiting and training agents, and I knew about the program, and then but they were taking like 6 months to a year to career. So Neil was
Wow.
like, dude, I need you to career. It was like September, and he's like, you got to do it by like November or something, or whatever. But anyway, I ended up careering. I don't remember what the numbers were because I was a scratch agent, and to do that, you had to, career. And I think you had to do like 40 policies and
Four
fall
live, 40 and
4
four, I
live
think
or
it's
something like
probably.
40 and 4. Yeah. Yeah. And I did it in 30 days. And so I started my own office basically, into 2012. And so I got put in, I had another agent. His name's Bo Bollinger. He's now independent, but he was
Hmm.
kind of my mentor at the time. And he ended up moving to Roanoke, Texas, which is where I'm at now. And this was actually his office, and I was the office next door, and we worked
Oh,
together.
crazy.
You could have joint offices as a farmer's agent back in the
Hmm.
day because farmers didn't know what compliance was apparently until they started, you know, taking bonus and commissions away with the storefront. Remember all that stuff?
Oh yeah. That didn't
So
last long though, because that was definitely not really
yeah,
legal.
it's
So
so it is so I office with him, and then fast forward, 5 6 years, I think it was 2018, 2019, I ended up buying him out. And so we after that, moving to going more to the independent side, November of 2021 is when we made the leap. And when we left Farmers, we were about a $6 million book, including some brokered stuffs, things like that. um so that's my farmer story. We went on like 20 something trips, and we won all the awards, accolades. I wasn't on the advisory board based on me. I'm not corporatey enough. So like Phil Gaspar hated me because like of how outspoken I was. And I'm not a corporate guy. Like I think I had one corporate job in college, and I got fired in like 30 days because I'm just a free bird. So I like working for myself. And so uh
what was
basically,
it? What was it that like what was the tipping point though? Because I mean, having a $6 million book, being with the company for 10 years, you're pretty well established, right? I mean, you had
yeah,
there's a lot going on. There's a lot of reasons to stay, right? As far as like revenue and things like that. And you decided to start over. What was kind
well,
of the
yeah, a lot of my buddies and mentors had kind of left Farmers. Like, in fact, in 2021, when we left, we had 62 agents, I think, in our district. And now I asked one of my buddies still working in the district, he's still an agent, and they're down to like, I have it written down somewhere. It's like 34.
hmm,
Like they lost half their agents and
it's kind of
and
happen
like
over and all over the place.
in 3 years. So I did know there's going to be a hard market after COVID, and I knew that appointments and getting appointed with carriers was going to be damn near impossible. And so I was at a point where financially I could make the move, and I wanted to sell my book to another agent. And then my DM told me, no, it's going to take 3 to 6 months because they have to be FFS, and they have to have a storefront and all this stuff, and like threatening me. So I actually took probably $1 million hit and just sold my book to the company. But I had so much cash reserves from being so conservative as a business owner and kind of knowing the last couple of years, like 2019, 2020, I knew we wanted to kind of pivot because we started selling a lot of ENS that farmers
Mm,
didn't like. And I was like, I'm liking this. I'm liking this money. And
yeah.
then one of my mentors who had left basically was like, dude, we're with SIAA. I didn't know what aggregators were, but he's like, I'm independent and we're making 15% commissions and renewals are 12% and all this stuff. And so I was like, I needed to make a move quickly because I knew the market was going to change. So I decided to take a hit and make it now because if I had waited 6 months, we wouldn't have half the appointments we got.
Yeah.
Because we have a ton of appointments, even though not a lot of them are writing, we got them. And so that's what's important. And so we made the change. So, you know, moving to this year, I don't want to go too far pace. I kind of scatter all over the place. That's the ADD in me. But moving now financially, we're at a $3 million book
20
in
months.
20 months. Yeah. I mean, so but I can walk through the process of it, but you grow so much more exponentially and so
Hmm.
much quicker. Any revenue that we've lost potentially, I'm going to make up in a few years. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I had waited much longer, in my opinion. So it was definitely a good opportunity for us to make the move. I did clean house quite a bit. I had three producers. I let two of them go, kept one, kept my CSR, and then basically started from scratch. And so November 2021, we made the official move, sent in resignation, and then basically got paid by the company in installments. And I didn't
Hmm.
really need that money. I already had cash flow from other stuff, but basically made the move to start from scratch direct appointment. That was kind of my deal. So when you have other people on here, they talk about their aggregators, things like that.
Hmm.
Ken Urbania with Agency Collective, I'm not sure if you've talked with him, but he actually approached me and we do have, I think, two appointments with them. I think it's Travelers and Progressive, I think. But everything else, Safeco, Mercury, whatever, it's all direct appointment. And so because of our loss ratios, which I didn't know, as a farmer's agent, you don't really know about that or care about that. It's not something you really look at,
Hmm.
you know, it really wasn't. And so I created this business model from scratch as an entrepreneur now because no one tells you when you're a captive agent, you're just a glorified employee. Like you're 1099. I know there's the argument of like, are you really W-2? I think Liberty Mutual had that art case and won because that's how their employees are. I like being a business owner where I'm just paid cash and taxed on it. But when you don't really own your own book and truly own and can move and pivot clients, you're kind of stuck where you're at. And so again, that's another reason we moved because man, there were so many good options that we were losing to as a farmer's agency. And I was like, man, I wish I had Safeco. I wish I had so and so. Da 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 da. And we were about to have our first kid. And I was like, I gotta grow a pair of balls and make the move. Like I've got to do it. And so I just kind of took the leap of faith. And I think really what did it in, like I said earlier, is everybody was bailing and I kept telling me like things are changing corporate. And I know you interviewed Jennifer Creed, and she went into a lot of detail about the new buyout of who they not foremost, but I can't
Oh,
remember.
MetLife, the MetLife process.
Yeah,
Yeah.
MetLife,
Hmm.
like that was a dumpster fire. Everything farmers touches is a dumpster fire. Like they cannot manage stuff. And it's just, it is what it is. And so we made the move and it was the best thing we ever did. And so that's basically where we're at. So 2021, in November, I took kind of a hiatus during the holidays and, really kind of didn't start stepping up till January of 22. And then from then I rehired and we spent 6 months figuring out our game plan because we had to build our technology from from scratch, right? Or
Hmm.
figure it out, Zap. I didn't know what Zapier was, and all that stuff. Like I hired y'all to do our automation. Farmers, I just had the old whatever they use, Salesforce or whatever they had. I didn't have any outside data. I was an idiot, man. And so, I think I used a little bit outside stuff, but for the most part, I was really focused on how can I be a business owner? How can I own my data? How can I own what I've got? And I think that's where most independents go wrong when they leave captive is you're going from an employee man to a full freaking business owner. Like you are a CEO, figure that shit out. Like you are not just quoting and smiling and dialing anymore. You've got to understand EBITDA. I had no idea what EBITDA was. I heard that 10 times when I went to one of these conferences. I had no idea what that was. If you want to sell your book, EBITDA. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. I've never heard that term. Like, I barely did my taxes, like, because I was printing it out on folio and I just sent it to my CPA and they did it. And so now, I didn't even have a bookkeeper because everything was kind of done already recorded for you. But
Hmm.
now I've got a
One
CPA.
check.
Yeah, I've got three attorneys. I've got an employee attorney. I've got a HR attorney. like I've spent all this money, a lot of the cash reserves. I think I spent like, which no one has to do necessarily, but always get at least some attorney to look at. Spend $300 and have them look at something for an hour for you if you're doing a
Hmm.
contract or whatever. But I've got attorneys on retainer and just in case something happens. And so I mean,
Well,
you
because
know,
there's no corporate office telling you like this is what you need to do to stay
no.
compliant, or these are the rules, or these are the things you should have in place. Like it's all you, and that's the biggest thing that
Exactly.
I've learned between when we started working with independent agents, a few years ago, Accelerate Automation was the amount of business acumen skills you actually have to have are completely different than what you would have as an independent as a captive. Now, I'm not saying there's not captives who have like outside books, right? Who've learned a lot of those skills. There is, but the average captive agent doesn't realize how little they actually handle when it comes to business structure and all of those boxes you have to check, accounting, legal, that's provided by your captive carrier. So
Yeah, and
totally different.
even though we have companies that represent us, like if I got in trouble or there was a claim dispute or whatever, like farmers would typically help you out and like, hey, let's figure this out or whatever. Or if there's, whatever, you have that corporate backing, but when you're independent, you are truly on your own and there is no one to save your ass except you. And so
Mm-hmm.
you've got to really make sure you take care of your business that you're building because that's the way it is. And so I know a lot of agents when they go independent, they join an aggregator or cluster. And like I said, we kind of did because we had to get two appointments, but for the most part, everything we do is direct appointment. And so that's the biggest thing. I don't know if people are doing that now because of the market, but that took a lot of work to get those appointments. So anyone that's looking to leave the market now, I'm sure you've heard this before, terrible time. No one's offering new appointments. Like it's not, but I do believe in 2025, we've got several companies that are going to want market share back. They're tired of State Farm, beating everybody up, especially here in Texas. So they want market share back and they're doing it. They're just waiting for kind of the season to settle and the cycle to turn back around. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the biggest thing is just waiting on these companies to make these moves to get back because these hard markets are still cyclical and they don't last forever.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone is thinking about going independent right now, they need to start thinking about it right now. And my advice to you is have your legal team ready when you create documents for hiring, incorporation, become an LLC. Where I'm not saying I'm not a tax expert or a lawyer, but we're an LLC. Taxed as an S corp. I think that was a smart move. Get an attorney to do a handbook for you or approve one, and your contracts, things like that. Every carrier is different, so if you're going to do something that's scaled, make sure it appropriately fits with all the carriers. Make sure your branding and your logo is all compliant. I mean, I spent lots of money, time, and energy on my logo because my brand is a baby, right? But it's starting to grow. I mean, in just 20 months really of production, we have 90 Google reviews in just the short time that we've been doing this,
Hmm.
because of y'all's automation that's helped quite a bit. And when as a farmer's agent, Google reviews weren't as relevant, and I think I had 13 in 10 years. Like it wasn't something we pushed, right? But when you're
But
independent,
it brings people to you for sure. There's a
it
lot
it,
of review
it
shoppers.
does, yeah. And what's insane is when we were captive, like 20% of our leads were referrals. The rest was cold calling. Like that's how I built my farmer's book for the first 3 years was 21st century leads. Remember
Hmm.
those?
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah.
I do
First
remember
of all,
this.
yeah, it was like non-standard auto that I
Yeah.
upsold the 5100 limits and then upsold them the 100 300 limits. That's how I grew like my first $3 million was just doing that. Like it was just
Yeah.
auto, and then when they bought a home, we switched them over. Um, but going back, that's when you have your business setting up, you've really got to make sure that if you're doing it, you do it right. You spend the money if you have. I know people don't have, $350,000 of liquid capital to sometimes invest in staffing and stuff like that. But let's say you've got $5,000. Go to LegalZoom, get incorporated, get that, find an attorney, hire them for an hour to look at a contract. Okay, great. You've protected yourself. And then you go get your contracts with your, whether you're through an aggregator, because you still have to go get appointments, right? I think,
Hmm.
I'm not sure how SIA is. I'm not sure if they do that for you. If that is, that's great. But our with Agency Collective, you had to go seek it out. They didn't really help you because they don't take any money from us. And I know in
Hmm.
one of your interviews, y'all talked about reading contracts with the aggregators or clusters. That can be a dumpster fire, especially if you grow. Are you giving 20% of your revenue on renewals to them, or are they taking your profit share or whatever? In fact, I've got travelers here coming by in about an hour and a half to bring me a nice check from writing a lot of good business with them. So, that's the thing is I don't give a penny to anyone. I don't. And that's the
Yeah.
thing is you want to keep what you want, but if you're going to go that route, you're like me and you're a lone wolf and you got to create everything from scratch.
Yeah. Those clusters, like the AC, I know they have negotiated some like discounts on softwares and programs for you guys. And that's my favorite contract when I was reviewing them when I thought I was going to go independent. I loved it because it was really hands off. And then, but you got to know yourself as an agency owner, right? If you really step back and you're like, man, my skill set is like, I'm really good at sales. You're basically like a really good producer and you want to go independent. You should be looking for a contract that's going to give you training support, kind of like a captive environment, but with more carriers, but it will come with cost, right? And always review the contracts. Right now in this market, going direct is really, really, really difficult. It would be a pretty big stretch to be able to get very many directs right now. So you probably will have to go with an aggregator or cluster. But look at the exit clause because maybe you only need to go with that aggregator or cluster for 2 or 3 years until the market really opens and you can get direct appointments. Make sure you can, exit in a good way because there's clauses in there around like
Non-competes.
vesting periods, non-competes. There's still restrictions on who you can sell it to, or if you can, gift it to family. So just be careful. There's a lot in there. But that AC one, man, that sucker is short. It is basic. It is like
Yeah.
will help you. Like they kind of help with appointments a little bit, but you still got to go do it. And they'll give you some discounts. And there is a little support, but it's not like they're going to hold your hand. Like you got to be knowing what
No,
you're
and
doing. But you
that's the
keep your
price.
money.
Yeah, that's the price you pay for keeping your money. Now,
Exactly.
there's two appointments that we don't have. We don't have ASI for Progressive, which is I wish we had right now, and then we don't have Nat Gen Premier Home, which is an Allstate company. But Allstate's changing all that right now. They're cutting Allstate out, they're cutting Encompass out, they're cutting Nat Gen Premier out, and then
Mhm.
come the summertime, they're actually going to be Nat Gen and Allstate Company. So all that shit's going away anyways. And so we're going to be able to refresh and get from scratch with those new appointments because we're already in with Allstate. And
Mhm.
so, it's just like I said, the market's changing, but the point being is I did not know what to expect. I had been told, but I didn't spend a week or a month or whatever really researching. I kind of emotionally just said, I'm I want to make the change. And then I was like, all right, let's create a company and let's create a da 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 da. And like I said, took us 6 months to really build up because we didn't start selling until July of 22,
Hmm.
really. And that was the big thing is, it was creating all of that and getting appointments. I mean, some appointments like Mercury took us like 4 months to get. It was that
Yeah.
long because it took forever. Safeco, they didn't want to give us their home product. It took us 5 months to get Safeco's home product. I mean, it was bananas. Um,
So can you share like if people that haven't gone through this process before, like what were their reasons? Why did they not want to give you the home product? And like how did you get them to give it to you?
they knew the market was turning and their
Mm.
loss ratios were hitting over 100%. And they said, well,
We don't want more business.
we got our Q1 report and we're shutting it down. And I said, look, y'all promised me back in November of 21, dang it, that y'all were going to do this. And we were so lucky because the Safeco rep girl, I forgot her name. She's awesome. She moved, she got promoted, and we were her last agency to get appointed. And she literally said, screw it. Here's the home. I'm not supposed to give it to you, but I mean, we snuck it
But that's
in.
huge, right?
It's
Relationships
huge.
with the carrier reps like is so big on
Yeah.
the independent side, and people don't know that on the captive side. But it is a big deal. I mean, you got a good relationship, and you got to write good business, right? That's the other thing where people want to go independent and they think, "Oh, I want to have 15 carriers," and you're like, "Okay, but you have to learn like the appetites for 15 carriers because if you start throwing them a bunch of crap business that they don't want or that isn't eligible, they will pull your appointment. Just like you, it's hard to get it. It's
Yeah.
not that hard to lose it. You got to keep it."
Yeah. It's hard. I mean, Travelers, for example, they're cutting agents with a bunch of monoline auto or a bunch of monoline home,
You
and
know,
then
I
high.
just saw an agent talking about that.
It's just so when if anyone gets anything from this, loss ratios and balanced book is what the companies care about. And when you're captive, that's not as big. I think Farmers now is kind of shutting it down for their non-renewing monoline home. I think
Mhm.
is that right?
Certain markets, certain areas,
Certain
yeah.
certain certain markets are. So they're doing that now, but most carriers, man, they want a balanced book and they want low loss ratios, 55% or less. That's kind of what you're looking at. Is kind of the sweet spot. And so that's really hard to do, but it is what it is. And so really understanding the carriers and this is what I love about being independent. When you're a farmer's agent or cat or State Farm or whoever, like I don't know about y'all, but you're terrified of your territory sales manager. Like they're the bad guy. They're the guy that fires you, or they're the guy that if you don't suck up to or you don't do something right, they can make your life hell, right? They
Yeah.
can't. They do. And it's like everything you do, you got to walk on eggshells, right? And I hated that corporate mentality. I'm not kidding, man. Our Travelers and our Safeco rep, for example, or Progressive, like they come to us, they're like, "Hey, you want to go to lunch? Let's talk about, your numbers, but yeah, let's go eat." And I'm like, "This is freaking awesome. Like, this is great. Like, y'all are sucking up to me to write business for you. Like, our Safeco reps, like, whatever you need. You want to go golf or something? Like, we need more business from you. It's good business. Like, your loss ratios are great." I'm like, dude, this is a nice change of pace. Like,
Well,
there's
it's
no
it's a very different, like where you could be a good, really good agent with farmers and or any captive company, right? You're writing good business. But if you kind of ruffle feathers, like you mentioned, right, where you're like, hey, I'm going to be
Yeah.
outspoken. I'm going to say like this doesn't make sense or this isn't helping us or whatever, and trying to give that really honest feedback. And it's like in that corporate environment, they kind of almost like can't handle it, right? You can't handle the truth, like they can't handle it. So
Oh yeah.
they're like, you need to stop talking, stop talking. I felt the same way in that environment versus if with your brokers they're as far as like things that they're doing, like the carriers are doing them for profitability for good rates, all of that stuff. But what you're doing in your business is really like none of their business. They're not going to care how you're
Yeah.
advertising or what your logo looks like or what you're doing or what you post on social media or whatever you do or say, because all they care about is like, are you bringing us good quality business that's
And,
staying on the books and has
and
low loss
and
ratios?
here's the best thing about being independent. Like when I was a farmer's agent, there was so much red tape and documentation and all that. I know that was like the biggest pain, like a full roof inspection for, I don't remember. My team dealt with all that, but it was like every little thing, plumbing updates, stuff, a lot of the independent technology already has that factored in, so you don't have to mess with it. So
Hmm.
there's no documentation required. Like we've never had to submit a new roof doc because the system already has it in there. It's typically you can't update it. Like it is what it is. And it's just you move on. Done. Quote done. No BS. No, unless it's a major thing, but it's not like, you got to track all this documentation, good student education discount. Like Farmers throws that on, and these companies they already like know all that. It's crazy the technology that they have, and what they're using to do that. So documentation, make sure you're writing good profitable business because the carriers can see if you're BSing. I know a lot of agents, Captain, State Farm, sometimes they can fudge on
Hmm.
numbers and roof age and stuff like that. You can't get away with that in the independent world. Like you're not because the technology is already ahead of you. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Which
Well, that's
which
because in the independent world, there's technology companies who just focus on insurance technology, and the carriers focus on being
yeah,
carriers versus carriers creating insurance technology that they're not good at, which I don't understand why these captive companies can't just basically throw in the towel and admit we're not good at tech. Let's go work with the companies who do
exactly.
tech all day.
Yeah.
I've never understood that, but maybe one day they'll figure it out.
Yeah. And so I just remember my staff complaining like every time, new roof dock, new roof dock, new roof
Mhm.
dock. And we'd get it, but it would take a week or two. And it's like, getting it from the contractor. And then, with travelers, they're like, okay, 2019 claim, 2019 roof. Here you go. Boom. And it's next. And there's none of that BS is needed. And so that was huge for my staff, not having to deal with that. And so that's really nice. There's less paperwork, less overhead, less red tape, because the tech's already there to make sure you're successful. So when it comes to quoting, obviously the process is a lot more streamlined, and that's huge. Now, there's hard stops in certain zip codes now, but that's more slowing down business. But
Yeah, but even then, like the fact that on the independent side you have so much control over your technology and what you can do,
right,
like there's a new solution out that they're kind of like in a closed beta right now. I can't wait till they open it up, but it's called Gaia, and it's like a copy, it's like a master copy paste onto like other carrier sites. It's so crazy. It saves so much time. But the thing is like those technologies and things come out, right? There's so much innovation out there for efficiency. And when you have a captive company where their system is closed off and you cannot add any of those efficiencies, I mean, how long did we wait for, Salesforce from Farmers? They kept saying a CRM's coming, a CRM's coming, and we
right.
finally got Apex. And then it was like, whoa, wait, how long have you been working on this? Because it's like
Yeah,
it looks like you've
Apex
been
was
working
a
on it for a
dump.
week. Like, so what did
Yeah,
you do here? I mean, it's and here it is like 3 years later, and it's still what it is. It's not improved, but it is frustrating. But when you do get on the outside with the independent side, way better tech, way better experiences with the carriers, but a heck of a lot more work as a business owner. Like, don't dismiss that. Like, you've done an amazing job. You're a great business owner. You've got, well-rounded. You've been looking at these things and managing them. But if all you're used to doing all day long is selling insurance and you don't have that business side, like I just can't say it enough because I've seen it slap so many agents in the face. And there's a lot of captives who go independent who are not successful because they
right.
underestimate how much effort it takes to run the business.
Oh, it's 10 times harder than being captive, but that's why we make more money.
Hmm.
And that's why, you work as you're a true business owner. You're not just a glorified producer, that is what it is.
Totally agree.
So I'm not sure if y'all done this before in other segments, but like the tech stack that we do use, that first 6 months, when we were starting up. So I didn't know this, but we needed a new phone system.
Mm.
So we use Lightspeed, and then we needed a CRM. I didn't really know what that was, but it's Agency Zoom, which is awesome. And then an AMS, which is how you manage your clients. So CRM is for solicitations and keeping up with, who's who in your pipeline, right? As you know. And then your AMS is like Hawksoft. That's who we have, right? And then you got to have a texting integration, and that's who we use Twilio for, right? And then on the marketing side, we have other technology too. So we use Canopy Connect to get deck pages, which is amazing. Oh my God, that is the best tech we have. So imagine I send you a link and then you go to my website and it forwards an inquiry and then it leads you to a direct page where you can log into State Farm or Farmers and send me your deck pages. And it's beautiful. That thing is amazing. We've got other things too that we use, but yeah, make sure you have a good CRM. You've got a good phone system. You've got a good AMS, and that's really what you've got to do, and then spend the time to create the funnels and the pipelines for that. So,
You mentioned Google reviews. I'm sure you have a good website too. Those are important because you got to have
yeah,
an
yeah,
online presence so people know that
yeah,
like you're legitimate.
yeah. There's one other independent agent in our town, and they have 75 reviews, and they've been here 10 years. We've been here really 20 months, give or take, and we have 90 reviews. So we want to pump those numbers up.
Yeah.
But the response rate is great because we have agency Zoom. Every time someone does a policy, we send them, I think, three messages, either an email, text, or whatever. But it's 3 touches for a Google review within the first 30 days. And people, it is so easy. And if we don't get a 5-star review, it doesn't go on Google. It alerts us back. Hey, this person gave you a 4-star. Reach out to him, see what you can do to get a 5-star, which is awesome. So,
Yeah,
but
those filters are nice. I mean, it's a thing, right? I mean, I'm 36 while we're recording this call, and I moved to a new town, and I needed a new dentist and a new eye doctor and all that. And the first thing I do is hit Google Maps and I look at their reviews, and whoever has the most reviews, I start kind of thumbing through, doing a little research, and that's who I call first.
yeah,
And I mean, this last time I was looking for an eye doctor, and I called a few with the high reviews, and some of them weren't taking new patients because they were too full, right? And they were the ones with the high reviews. I had to go a little bit further down to get someone who was taking new patients, but
yeah,
it's true. It's the world that we're all used to living in. We're all the Amazon shoppers, the Google, review generation kind of thing. You're probably not going to buy something if it's not been recommended or you've done some research to like what is the
yeah,
best, right? So
yeah,
get
absolutely.
yourself out there. And if you even if you are captive, you can do that now. You can still build it. But the thing is if you decide to go independent, you got to start over, right? Like
Yeah,
you
you
don't
got
get
to
to keep
start
it.
over. Yeah, and so that's the one thing is like when you're building someone else's brand, it stays with them. You can't take it with you. My big thing is if you're gonna do this, also, you know, I created an agency that works around my lifestyle. Okay. Um, I'm not sure if you saw my Facebook post the other day. I don't work 10 to 12-hour days. I'm not a workhorse. I'm not a serial entrepreneur. Talk to Todd McLean about that. If you want to get like, how do I just do everything, which he's awesome at, and he does it well. But me, man, I'm good old boy. I'm good at selling insurance and I'm good at taking care of my team. All right. And now I can add being managing a business because I learned how to do it overnight, basically. But that's my life. What am I going to do in the next 40 years? Where can I make a good amount of money, stay happily married, and have my kids love me and still go on trips and have a nice house and have
Mhm.
a nice truck and all do all this stuff and still put up money away towards retirement and maybe invest in some other stuff. And I'm doing that right now. And I'm working from 9 to 3. I go work out at 3 and then I go pick my kids up and then I cook dinner and then I put them to bed. And it's like I'm almost like, am I doing something wrong? And every day my peer group, they say if it makes you happy and you're making money and you're paying your bills and still, who gives a shit what Gary Vaynerchuk says, like
100% agree with
you
you.
should
Like,
be
yeah,
working 20 hours a day as a new business owner. Like I'm like, dude, that's not me, man. Like I'm chill. So
yeah, makes sense.
if anyone wants to learn how to be like, I wouldn't say lazy, but like the simple life of how to do it right and set it up. Because this is how I took college. Work your ass off the first 2 years, get your grades up, and then you can, if you want to, you can have more fun when you're older. But naturally, if you're already at this level, you're not going to dip.
Mhm.
right? So it's kind of like work your butt off and then, you kind of stay, but like there's no easy street. Every day is hard, but we've set the systems and processes and employees, the staff in place to make sure we are successful. And, we've hit goals. We're at $3 million and since really selling since July of 22. And man, I'm taking my team on a cruise to in November.
That's
Like
awesome.
just like, dude, like we're doing the damn thing. Like, and
Well, there's a lot to be said for like what is enough, right? So I sold my agency because I had two businesses. It was too much work. I was away from my family too much. And yeah, I mean, is it great to have two businesses with two revenues? Obviously, but at what cost, right? So I mean, we all know people in our spheres who were like, man, looking back, I missed my kids' games. I missed this. I wish I wouldn't have, blah, 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 blah. You got to look at what you want in life. I mean, I work a decent amount. I try to work around my family as much as possible. And but at the same time, like know your limits and what is enough, right? Are you comfortable? These people who like said the serial entrepreneur, right? I want to be a billionaire. I don't care to be a billionaire. I need enough money to pay for my horses and like maybe
yeah,
take a vacation once a year and put away for retirement. I am happy camper.
yeah,
So you got to know what's important to you because if you chase the like more, 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 in my mind, man, you just feel like you just never stop running. How do you calm
yeah.
down after that? I don't know.
It's
I
it's
I
like
agree with what you said
it's
though.
it's like we're all going on a trip to Hawaii, but you can afford first class. I'll take coach all day. I'm still
Oh
we're
yeah,
still
I'm the same
we're
way.
still we're still going to the same destination, baby. You just paid $5,000 more to go to the same place. So
Yep.
that's kind of how I am.
Be
But
frugal. You can be a lot happier and have to worry about a lot less. I think so at least. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And also one thing I want to add too is y'all probably noticed all the liquor in the background. Sell what you want to sell when you're independent. Choose a niche that you love. I do a lot of liquor liability, a lot of bars, a lot of restaurants, uh, hookah lounges, stuff like that. And like it is badass. And so like it is fun doing what I get to do when I want to do it without we love selling life insurance, but I don't have to retain my renewals if I don't sell 5 life policies or whatever they're doing now. I,
Variable
I
comp.
love
Yeah.
life insurance. We have back nine and we sell policies, but it's funny, we sell more when we're not forced to. And so, um, do sell what you want to sell. And that's the best thing about it. I had my Series 663 forever and I dropped it. I did. And that's probably people say that's stupid for doing it. But I never used it. I wasn't a variable guy. I'm not a mutual fund guy. That's not, I don't want to half ass, the financial sector. I want a whole ass insurance and risk,
I 100% agree. I let
risk
mine go.
advising. Yeah.
Yep. I let mine go before I sold my agency because I was like, it's almost, it's like an ethical dilemma, right? Because if you're not all in the market and you're not all in being a financial advisor, can you really say you're doing the best thing for your client? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Everyone makes their own decision, but I didn't feel like I could give somebody all in because I had an agency to run. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a tough
Well,
balance.
but I mean, that's really me in a nutshell. I know I'm all scattered all over the place. That's just how I am. You imagine working for me, it'd be, but
I read somewhere that it was like something like 80 some odd percent or whatever business owners have like ADD or ADHD or whatever.
well, that's
And
what makes us
it's
great.
like their superpower because they can handle all of these things like coming at them and it makes them, scattered and crazy.
It's so funny. I have, this is hilarious. So I have, my office manager makes me
A
a,
daily
a
checklist.
daily checklist like I'm 5 years old, but it literally has made I forgot to check off stuff this morning. But it is like it's hilarious and it works every day because it's how she knows me. And so
Does she give you a little stamp, like, like a little sticker or a stamp when you complete your
no,
checklist?
she just gives me a checkbox, but
It's
but
awesome.
she
I love
she
it.
color she colors it, and so it's fun.
It is fun.
I'm 36 years old running a $3 million agency, and I'm getting treated like a
A
5 year old,
checklist with a frog on
but
it.
but I deserve it because I'm all over the damn place. So
But
I
that's really testament to like having the right people in place though, right? Because obviously your office
yeah,
manager is task oriented, helps keep you on task. Like having people around you that have skills that you don't have, that's huge in business.
yeah,
And
oh
I know that was a journey for me. I used to always think I had to be like the smartest person or know every little piece of my business, right? And And when your team starts coming to you and they know things, or they're like, hey, this needs to be done, and they're keeping you in check, that's a good day. That's a really good day. It
Yeah,
means you got the right team.
I tell my team I'm Captain Kirk. You know, I'm not as good looking, but I know a little bit about everything.
Hmm.
But you know, Spock and all, you know, I got to hire those people.
Yeah.
And so that's the big thing, is making sure you've got your team that know, and this is where a lot of business owners fail. They're afraid of hiring people smarter than them. But I think that's what CEOs do. They hire people that are the smartest and the brightest and the best at that area,
Hmm.
whether it's HR or sales or whatever. They hire the best, and they're not afraid of being outgunned by someone that knows more than them in a certain aspect. And that's a lot of weakness, because there's so many power hungry business owners, especially a lot of agency owners, that I'm like, dude, I would hate to work for you because you are a control freak. And it is going to be the end of you because you just can't let go. And
Yeah.
so, you know, but everybody does
Hire
it
good
different.
people and get out of their way.
Yeah. Train them
Give them
well.
the
And
tools and like
yeah,
get out of their way.
you want them to be smarter than you eventually, because if not, then how do you know anyone's growing? Right.
Yeah, no, 100%. Well, anything you want to wrap up with, Scott? I really appreciate all your time. This has been really fun. Anything you
Yeah.
want to leave anybody with that's maybe considering this? Final thoughts?
So research, ask your peers. You know, there's a lot of Kool-Aid that gets drunk in these captive, and you're not. I'll tell you right now, you're not going to make that move unless something happens. Having my first kid was really that. I need to create my own business if I'm going to do it now, and that's when I really made the jump. Was like, okay, I don't want to be employee for farmers much longer. Like I need to make the move. So you're gonna have to have a life event or something, because I can talk to you all day. We can listen to Mariah and her interview other people that did it. You're not going to make the move unless something kicks you in the ass to do it, right? Something big has to happen, whether it's internally with the company, with yourself, or whatever. And so, you know, just prepare if and when that happens, because a lot of companies are changing, man. I mean, you're just a number when you're captive. You're just, and whatever they got to do, if they're cleaning house, you got to watch out. So beat them to it. And you know, everyone runs their agency differently. Just because someone's doing XYZ doesn't mean you have to follow the same suit. Do what makes you happy, but you also have to understand, making sure, like I said, the first 6 months, all we did was create systems, processes in place before we just started being dumb and dialing and smiling and dialing and selling policies. We read the contracts for the carriers, we read the policies, we read all that. You're gonna have to do that before you just say, oh, I left the captive world, I'm independent now, sell. Like, that's not going to work. You got to really make sure you set up a business plan and you have those systems in place before you do that. Okay. And so that's really all I got, man. It's a big journey. I can't wait for the next 20 months. You know, our goal is to hit 4 million by the middle end of Q3. You know, and then we'll be at 6 million probably by end of next year. And what took us 10 years to do, we'll do in, I don't know, 3.5, 3 years. So it's
Pretty
groovy.
awesome. Lots of
Yeah,
work, but well, thank you so much, Scott. I appreciate it. And I'm excited to see you hit that $6 million marker.
absolutely. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.